What's up, everybody? It's your favorite, biggest merc toy in the world's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the NECA 1/4 scale Deadpool, and I have mixed feelings about this. It looks cool. We're gonna get into the problems that I have and final thoughts and all that, but I think I might be more critical of NECA than a lot of my peers. So maybe I'm bringing baggage to the table with this. But hopefully I'll be able to make my points as to my criticisms, and then it'll all make sense by the end of the video. Let's measure this guy because I don't have many toys to choose from in this size group. It may look weird on camera, but he's about a foot, 19 3/4 inch tall. This tape measure doesn't have centimeters on it, so you know, if only there was this box that was connected to every other box on the face of the planet that housed pretty much all of known human information, and you could use this box as a tool to access information. Like if you wanted to convert 19 3/4 inches into centimeters, you would be able to do so. Hopefully somebody will come along one day and create that invention, or create a tape measure that has two. I mean, I know there's tape measures that have both, but I don't have one handy. Therefore, if you want to know how many centimeters it are, long story short, 19 3/4 inches, use Google and convert that unit. So because it's Deadpool, let's start with his firepower, which I think is really well done for the most part. Two types of blacks here. One is more glossy, one is more flat, looks really sharp. The silver's painted really well, has a slight dry brushing effect of the silver. All the little buttons, so forth, or screws are painted. Very cool sculpt, nothing removes. Of course, the gun can be stowed in the holster as well as held in his hand with no problem. And then we have this unit. I love this. This is probably my favorite gun that he comes with. It has like the Deadpool. It looks like he's painted it on himself, so there's a little bit of wear. Like it's not perfect. I like that. I think that was a choice that was made. This end towards enemies painted on. This piece is bent, but I think it's like supposed to be bent, like for the character. Like, and I think that works. And then we have Deadpool's gun. We have another little symbol painted on there. We have the dry brush effect on the gun itself. And then we have this thing, like, which you could like clip on to like, I don't know, old stuff. Like, we used to have one at my dad's house. It was like a koala bear. I think they're called like climbers or something. Scalers. I don't know what they are. It's something like that, which is cool. I think like this is my favorite one. I think the sculpt is beautiful. The paint is beautiful. I love the little character nuances with it. Really well done. And then this big mamma jamma, we have dry brushing. We have paint on all the like the extra bits. You know, we have the kind of stuff that's the bandaging almost, or tape that's used to connect the extra magazines. The bullets are painted at the top of the magazine. Same on this piece. You know, and then this kin insert. Let me make sure that I'm doing this properly. You know, and then like that's good to go. Really aggressive looking, really intimidating. I think it's beautiful for the character. I think the sculpt is great and the detailings are superb. And he can hold both of those with no problem. But he's not finished with weapons quite yet. He comes with the sai. Kidding. And it's wrapped up in, it looks like dry brush with a gray, which is a weird choice, and then it gets on the blade, which is a bit strange, but we have more paint errors along the way, which we'll get to, and then this silver metallic along the blade, which does look good. He also comes with this knife, which is very cool, very wicked looking. We got weathering done to the handle. It's a red. We have the silver buttons all painted, and then the whole blade is washed with the black wash. It looks really good. Of course, he does hold them, and it should also be noticed at the bottom of the side handle has the Deadpool symbol in it, which was a nice touch. And the knife can also be carried down in here, but you have to make sure that you have the knee bent to get around the holster. He comes with his two signature swords, and then we have this nice, like the blood grooves that are sculpted in here on this metallic silver paint, as well as O ... money sign, hashtag point, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, for the details. That's a nice touch, and I like it. I also like how the top of the sword guard is in the Deadpool style. All this stuff is sculpted great. It's painted well and looks sharp. And then we have like the sculpted details down here that are all dry brush gray on top of black, which I thought was a little bit of a weird choice, but looks fine. And then the red underneath, and then the silver at the bottom. They're beautiful. He holds them well. And they can both be stowed in this kind of double sheaths or skateboards or whatever. And then it has this bit that's painted and then dry brush, but looks sharp. And then this can plug into his back. It's not the best connection because it's a softer plastic back here, which is a bit of a bummer. But once you have it put in and posed, you should be fine. And lastly, we have a slew of hands. We have the 2 pistol trigger finger hands that we saw in the opening footage. We're going to save this one for last. We have 2 sword holding hands. Let's see. I guess these are identical. This is like a half trigger finger hand, but I can't really, like, I think it held the knife fairly well. But I don't know. We have this hand which holds the sword great, and then either one of these will hold the sword well as well. But these are almost like copies of one another. It's just one is a bit more relaxed. The good news is that you got a couple holding hands. You can find a different hand to hold the weapons that aren't guns. Even though these look like trigger finger hands, like a little bit, you can't really use them for trigger finger hands. I've tried it on all the guns. It doesn't really work. And then for this one, the last bit of business, like the fingers are like a flexible, pliable plastic, like they're turtles, which is a nice thing to get the accessories in and out with no fear of breaking. And then the last one, which is one of the most awesome accessories ever, is this devil horns hand, which can hold a weapon and has the Deadpool, brass knuckles on it, which looks totally awesome. I probably would have to display him using this in some form or fashion. I love it. All right, so let's go through this thing, and we'll go through it piece by piece. There's a lot to talk about. The head seems to me to be on a hinge, like a ball hinge, but I can't get it to move. Now, I've had problems with these NECA 1/4 scale figures being able to move very well without heating them up, so maybe that's part of the issue. In my opinion, you pretty much just get the swivel. Now, the down movement of the head is also blocked by this piece, which is a floating piece, which in my opinion should have been sitting a lot closer to the collar. Now, once again, maybe if you heat this up, you can force it down, but you shouldn't have to do that. Now, the sculpt work for the head is great. I love the facial expression, all the wrinkles and the black around the eyes. It really looks like it's emoting. All of the texture in the suit, which we see throughout in most of the red. Love all that stuff. The red has a wash on it. The buttons on the suit are painted, which you can kind of see right there. I love all that stuff. I love all the sculpted detail. I love all the texturing. I love everything about the way it looks. I just don't like the function of it, and I think that this could have been done better. So let's keep it moving. Another problem that I have a lot of problems with this thing. Another problem that I have is it has an ab crunch, which I don't think it should have had. I think they should have gone with probably a ball jointed diaphragm. I think that would have been more effective. But let's talk about the sculpt and get the good stuff done. The sculpt for these straps here is tremendous. All the seam work and stuff that's done in them, the belts, they're softer pieces, so they fit right. The paint is all done fairly well, and the paint isn't done well across the board on this guy. But that looks great. It continues throughout. It's all on the back as well. Little stitch marks like that little X there. I love stuff like that. It's little pride things, little silver buttons painted on the back of the figure. I love stuff like that. The seam work, all that stuff looks great. The problem is this ab crunch, at least on mine, it seems like the resting position, like the straightforward position, isn't sculpted right. Which seems crazy. It lines up, like you see, watch this piece here. It lines up when you have him bent over that far. That's when the mold lines up. It should line up better when it's standing more straight up and down. But it doesn't. You have these pieces that kind of angle out here. Maybe that's necessary in order to get it to move engineering-wise, but either way, I feel like it could have been done better. Articulation-wise, though, it works pretty good. You get 2 clicks forward, and then if that's straight, or maybe this is straight, then you get 1 click back. But that doesn't really do it. There's also I have paint scuffing on the black here. There's a lot of paint scuffing all around. I have some near on the shoulder joints, some red outside the lines there. Otherwise, that part looks pretty good. We do have some issues later on. Let me tell you something else I like. I like the difference in blacks. Like this is more of a flat black, and then the shoulder pads here have a more glossy finish, which makes it look like a different material. I totally dig that. Love it. I love all the wrinkles and stuff that are sculpted into the shoulder. It looks great. The silver buttons, all that stuff looks good. Disc hinge shoulders, which get you almost out to 90 degrees. I think it works better than it works on the turtles. However, it looks to me like this shoulder was red and then painted black on top, which doesn't make any sense. But if you can see right in there, there's red in there underneath that black. I'm not sure why that is, but I don't think it was the right choice, and I think it was an easy fix. So I don't know how I feel about that bit. And then you get the swivel, and that works fine, so that's good. Bicep swivel gets a little jammed up around this, and I'm not comfortable. This doesn't belong to me, so I'm not comfortable working it around and potentially damaging the paint. I can tell that the engineering is there, but I can't really get it to move. Sculpting wise for the bicep and forearm and stuff, all this stuff looks great rather. This elbow bit to cover down on the joint, smart idea, beautiful. It's got a little dry brushing of silver to give it a weathered look. I like that a lot. All the silver buckles are painted well. And actually that looks like it may have even been touched up. So that's nice. The joint is sculpted here on the front with the wrinkles in it and everything. I love that. Same sort of detailings throughout in the arms with the sculpted texture as well as the wash that's added on for depth. That looks good. Double jointed elbow, great range. You got these wrist things here. They're sculpted on. It looks like it doesn't look like they're glued. Painted well for the most part, but we do have some paint chipping down in here if you can see it. I'm not sure. For the wrist, all right, so the wrists are on. These swivels here, the paint gets a little weird, but that doesn't bother me as much because I kind of understand why there's an issue, and I'm forgiving of it. You know, unlike some of the other issues that I don't understand, one of which we're getting ready to get to soon, which I can't wait to talk about because I think it's interesting. The hands, we'll go ahead and talk about those detailings. We have gold knuckles, they're dry brush silver. We have this kind of grayish, more of a gunmetal silver for the base, and then it's a lighter silver painted on that's supposed to make it look weathered, but I don't think it does a great job of making it look weathered. Like that, this is kind of how Hasbro Black Series Star Wars stuff makes it look weathered. It never really looks, I don't know, it never really looks real. My buddy Adam paints stuff, he makes it look weathered all the time. The way that he does it is much more efficient, in my opinion. The red is painted on, the detailings and sculpt work and all this stuff in the glove are great. The paint and depth and washes and whatnot on the glove around the knuckles looks great. All that stuff I'm on board for. You get a swivel and then a hinge in and out. For the other arm, it's identical and it's also a hinge in and out. Now, yeah, that's it. All right, so waist swivel. That works fine. Now let's lower the camera. The belt, it's tremendous. The paint isn't totally clean, but it's forgivable, and I think it looks great. Tons of sculpt work, tons of detail, tons of paint. We got washes, we got silver accents for the buckles. We have just, it's outstanding. All this seam work, it's ridiculous. It's probably my favorite thing about it. I think it looks fantastic. Wrinkles in the pants and stuff, that all looks good. It's sculpted throughout them. We have the same sort of textured detailing sculpted there. These pouches are kind of done the same. They look good. They're a bit darker, but they look fine. This holster on the side looks good. It has a dry brushing effect more so than that like painted on wear, which I think is a better choice. I think it looks more realistic. All the buckles and stuff are all painted, and that looks pretty good. We have paint chipping here on the black. I think there's some, yeah, here it's chipping. So like that stuff's not perfect. Now, look, this is a big issue I have with it. Like there's his straight leg of his left leg, and it's nice and straight as it should be. And then here's his straight leg of his right leg, which is like bent. It's like it's too far. You know, like this one is perfect. This one is like it just takes away from the stability of the figure. Now, of course, you can get it posed and you can get it fixed, but now it's never quite right. Like, in order to have it straight, now you have this gap in there. Now, this may be an individual results will vary, and I'm willing to concede that. But on this, it irritates me. Now, for the knees themselves, they're all sculpted beautifully. The weathering is done really well here, much more of a dry brush look. And then the buckles, I mean, the little buttons and stuff are all painted, and that looks good. For the hips, let's talk about those. They're done well. Ratcheted, well, they're disc. I guess they act like universals, but they're disc hinges. So you get up to here, and then you get, which is pretty good. I think we should give them a lot of credit for that. And then they're ratcheted also forward, but you don't get much at all, which I've kind of come to expect with these 1/4 scale figures, so I'm forgiving of that. And then you get a thigh swivel around that disc hinge. So that's all done well. For the knees, full range, not the most beautiful looking knee, but very effective. And the back of the knee is all sculpted. I like stuff like that. So, yeah, that works well. Now, for the shins, these shin guards are all painted with that weathering effect that isn't dry brush, which is just, it's such an inconsistent choice. Like, I don't understand it, but this doesn't look as good. This looks like what Black Series does. So I'm not crazy about that on either side, but the sculpt is great. For the ankles, we have this bit that's all sculpted. We have an ankle tilt down to there, nothing really up, maybe a little bit, and then like almost a Marvel Legends type rocker where it's pegged into the foot here. So that works really well. The bottom of the shoe is all sculpted, painted with the snap and that's great. I love little things like that, the little tooth and all that. That's great. And then a toe hinge. And then paint wise, we have like claw marks on the boots and all that. That looks, I love it. I think all that works really well. And then I had this weird black paint stripe across the crotch. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Can you see it right there? Just strange. Like strange errors. Final thoughts wise, first and foremost, I want to thank my boy Joe KW for letting me take a look at this. It is greatly appreciated. I hope he continues to let me take a look at stuff in the future, even though I might be a little harsh to this one.
Nope, you're done.
Here are my problems with this. Number one, the scabbard is a pain to deal with, or the sheaths, or whatever they are. They're a pain to deal with, so I just took it off because it was getting on my nerves. Two, the paint adherence is an issue. It's chipping off all over the place. I have it on my hands and stuff. Like there's little pieces of it on the floor here, if you can see my floor mat. The articulation kind of sucks, and some of that is the fault of the engineering, and some of that may be an assembly issue. Like that right leg, that's an assembly issue, I think. The engineering issue is more so in the ab crunch, and then possibly with that thing, that collar around his neck that possibly prevents his head from moving down more. Now, NECA figures have known to be very stiff out of the package, so to speak. So it may be a stiffness issue as well. I'm willing to concede that. Also, the bicep swivels are problematic. All of the hands have hinges in and out. None have hinges up, down, even the ones that are supposed to hold the sword, and I think that is a shame. Another paint issue I have is that the dry brushing looks great, but the add-on paint for weathering doesn't look as good nor as believable, and I'm not sure why they would have changed the way they did business from one to the other. I mean, I guess you could say that one was supposed to look more beat up and more like intentional scrapes as opposed to casual wear and tear, but it doesn't come across that way. It comes across as a kid who drew across it with a silver marker, and that's unfortunate. And I see the same thing on Hasbro Black Series, and I point that out there as well. But I think maybe it's a little bit more obvious in a figure of this size. It's challenging to get them in dynamic poses because of either the stiffness of the joints or the limited range of motion. So a lot of times that even though this is highly articulated, it doesn't really allow itself or lend itself to use that articulation for anything believable. And those, to be fair, are really my only true gripes. But there are plenty of good things here as well. There's tons of sculpted detail, maybe more sculpted detail I've ever seen on a figure ever in my life. And the sculpts are beautiful. There is a lot of paint. The paint doesn't adhere as well as you would hope it would have, but how often are you going to be playing with a figure of this size, you know? So I think that you get them posed, you get them on a shelf, I think that it'll hold up in that regard. Tons of accessories, and the accessories are really well done, sculpted well, painted well, made with good materials, and most of them are completely integrated with the toy at all times, which is nice. So there are plenty of good here, and it is moderately priced, and it does have a strong presence once you get them posed. So look, I can recommend this if you're looking for simple poses to use as a more statue-based toy. If that's not what you're looking for, I do not recommend this. But I think most people will be looking for it for that reason. So I think most people can take this review as a recommend, even with all of my criticisms that I have of it. Hope that helps. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Till next time, take care.